and welcome back to the garden. Now today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the importance of making decisions and, well, being a bit ruthless with your planting, especially if you have a small garden. And the reason why I'm sat here in this space is because behind me you can see my plum tree. And I planted that plum tree last year, but that was actually a really difficult decision because there used to be, when I moved in about 2.5 years ago, there used to be these weigela, so that's a type of shrub, a flowering shrub, and there were 3 of them along this fence here. And they were doing really well, they looked really healthy. The bees absolutely loved the flowers, the birds like to perch in those shrubs. So it was a really hard decision to decide to remove the weigela. But yeah, even if the wildlife loved it, I absolutely didn't. Now you can see behind me, that's my kitchen window. And so I was looking out on this shrub every morning. And yeah, I absolutely hated the flowers when it flowered. They were a colour that I really didn't like. And yeah, it was just taking up so much space in such a small garden. So in the end, I did finally take the decision to remove it. And you know, it wasn't really so much about me procrastinating. It is more that, as someone that has always gardened, that loves plants and really feels some kind of connection, it's really hard to remove something that's actually looking really healthy and strong. It really kind of pains me. It's a really difficult decision, especially when, as I say, I could see that the wildlife really loved these shrubs. Yeah, so I think this area now is looking really glorious here in the spring sunshine. And, you know, like so many things in life, you kind of wonder why you didn't do them sooner. Why did I put up with like a shrub that I really didn't like for 2 years when I could have been looking at this? Who knows? But anyway, I'm really glad that I did it. And yeah, I really hope that kind of inspires you to think maybe a little bit different about your space at home, especially if, like me, you have a really small growing space. But even if you don't, you know, as I say, this area here, I looked out to from my kitchen window, so I saw it every morning when I was making a cup of tea. Yeah, you know, it makes a big difference, doesn't it, to be looking out on something that you actually want to look at, rather than looking at something and thinking, ugh, not that again. That's actually quite a big psychological difference. So yeah, if you've got any spot like that in your garden, especially if it's near the house and you see it regularly, I highly recommend getting on with it this bank holiday weekend. In terms of the bees, hopefully I've managed to keep enough interest here for them. I mean, as you can see, there's loads and loads of forget-me-nots here behind me. And actually they were completely free because I had a lot in my veg beds that, you know, they'd self-seeded themselves there. They were taking up a lot of space, and the issue with that was they were really crowding out a lot of the leafy greens that I like to grow. But rather than tossing those plants and putting them in the compost bin, what I did was, you know, here where there was lots of bare soil, I decided to transplant them over in the autumn time. And yeah, they've put on this lovely display for me this spring, while me and the bees, let's face it, are waiting for the plum tree and the redcurrants to get going. At least they've got these lovely forget-me-nots here that they can enjoy. And yeah, I think I'm going to keep them here in future years. They're bound to self-seed again, let's face it. And yeah, I think I'm going to keep them here because they do look really beautiful. And, you know, they can be a good kind of undercover for, yeah, things like the plum tree here. Yeah, so that's the plum tree there, looking really healthy and strong. Lots of growth on it. I planted this last summer, I'm going to say. You know, basically as soon as the weigela flowered and it was over, that was when I decided to remove it. I gave it one last hurrah. But yeah, so now that's it there, and yeah, it's already looking really well established. Now, it is a late variety, so possibly it could still blossom, but I think sometimes fruit trees take a few years to get going, so I do need to be a little bit patient, I think. But yeah, the forget-me-nots certainly didn't need any time to get going. And then yeah, over here, if I can take you past the tree cabbage, let me move that out of the way. Yeah, you can see there are 2 redcurrant bushes. Now again, I've not had any flowers. I don't know when exactly they're meant to flower, but I am thinking maybe it is going to take them, you know, another season, so next year, before I get any fruit from them. But yeah, it's a long-term plan, and at least I've now got what I want in this space, rather than, you know, some shrubs that I really didn't like looking at. So yeah, I am really delighted. I think the forget-me-nots look absolutely stunning, and I'll have to think about what I put in here when the forget-me-nots finish. Yeah, that's certainly something to think about, isn't it? But yeah, just a huge, huge improvement. And just to give you an idea actually of how difficult it was to remove the shrubs, as I say, there were 3 of them and they were all as big as this. Yeah, it was no easy feat to remove that. I did it all by myself, which kind of makes the improvement that bit more, I don't know, that bit more meaningful. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. I've kept it in the garden because I think decaying wood is really good for, lots of things like beetles and just for the whole kind of ecosystem of the garden. So, and also, let's be honest, it would have taken a lot of effort to take this off to the dump, so the refuse tip. So, but yeah, it is, as I say, a fantastic habitat, and I think it adds a bit of character actually. So yeah, some of the weigela branches and things like that that I removed, I actually placed around the pond, and I'm really pleased that I did that. I mean, it's, as I say, it's created this really fantastic sheltering spot for frogs, and it's really important for frogs actually to have places where they can hide. Um, Especially in my garden where there's so many cats that visit this pond, and they are absolutely fascinated by the frogs. Now, I don't think they really want to harm the frogs, but you can tell that the frogs feel like they're harassed, which can't be very nice for them. But yeah, so obviously this dead wood also creates lots of habitats for things like beetles too. And just in terms of me, as a gardener, I personally find that it looks so much more natural, and I really enjoy looking at, having these logs around the pond. It just makes it look like this pond is a lot more established than it actually is. But yeah, I really love the character of kind of decaying wood. If you saw my bluebell video where I walked through the bluebell forest, I took a lot of shots of wood in various states of decay because I just find it kind of fascinating. I think I definitely put to good use, all of these old weigela branches, both for myself and also for all of the wildlife. So yeah, that weigela had another life, didn't it? And nothing's been put to waste. So yeah, that kind of brings me on to another difficult decision I've decided to make. I just had the brainwave today, which is why I'm filming this. And yeah, let me show you the plants. Yeah, so let's talk then about the difficult decision I've decided to make. And it relates to these 2 plants here, and they are my blueberries. There's actually a little bit of a story about them, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, I've got 2 blueberry plants. As you can see, one of them over here is looking really lush and strong, and it's already flowered. And actually, I think this is the healthiest I've ever seen it look. And there's a good reason for that, because I've been taking extra special care of them this year. Because I've already kind of put them into the last chance saloon, and I thought, well, if they don't do well this year, that's it. But I thought I would give them a chance. Anyway, over here is the other blueberry, and this is basically just a collection of twigs. There's one there's one little patch of green on it, but it is a collection of twigs. And the issue there is that this blueberry has finished flowering. This one is nowhere near flowering. Perhaps it won't. And therefore, they're not self-fertile. So what that means is I'm not going to get any fruits. What I've basically got is one bush that looks really pretty and green, and one really doesn't. Yeah, so this is one of my blueberry bushes here. As you can see, it's looking really healthy and strong. There's lots of green growth on there, and it's already flowered. But if I come down here to the other plant that I really need to be able to cross-pollinate it, you can see it is a collection of sticks, and I've got one tiny little bit there of green growth. And yeah, it's not flowered. Well, of course it's not flowered. And I highly doubt it's going to flower. Yeah, so I've got one very nice decorative bush over there, and I've got a collection of twigs. The issue with blueberries, if you've never grown them, is that blueberries really need to be grown in very specific soil requirements in order to fruit. They really like acidic soil. So if you've got acidic soil, absolutely grow them. But yeah, I have to grow them in pots because the soil I have here is chalk, which is alkaline. If you remember anything from your old kind of chemistry lessons, it's very much an alkaline. And yeah, if I was to plant them in the ground, they might survive, but they would be unlikely to produce much fruit. So yeah, I've always grown them in pots. I've had a few berries from them over the years, but never that many, like never a significant quantity. I used to have 3 bushes, like one of them's died. So they're not doing very well. And as much as I love to eat blueberries, I'm kind of thinking, you know, they're a lot of effort. They want specific soil, they want like specific feed, and I'm not really getting much fruit out of them. And maybe there are other options that I could, you know, have in the garden instead. The story behind these blueberries and why I've been holding on to them for so long, I mean, partly is because I just love eating blueberries and I'm always hopeful that this year's going to be the year that they do really well, despite many years of them not being that productive. Probably it's just blind optimism. But there is also a bit of a story. When I moved to this house 2.5 years ago, basically that was after I got divorced. And you know, one of the most difficult things for me about leaving that house was actually leaving the garden. I absolutely loved the garden, and you know, I'd got it to be exactly how I liked it, and it was really beautiful. And yeah, it really pained me to leave it. And one of the few things that I took with me were my blueberry bushes. I didn't take much, you know, I left most of the flowers behind. I think pretty much the only thing I took was the blueberry bushes. And therefore, maybe the decision to get rid of the blueberry bushes is a little bit more complicated, and it's been a bit trickier for me. But yeah, I do think it is time for them to go. Yeah, so if this plant had flowered, potentially I could have had like a fantastic harvest this year. But yeah, this plant had other ideas, and do you know what? Maybe I say that every year, I don't know. It's a lot of ifs and buts, right? So I think it's time then just to say, you know, I tried. I really tried to grow some blueberries. They haven't been very productive. And maybe it's time, yeah, just to try something different and see if some other plants do a bit better for me. Yeah, it's time to let the blueberries go. And I'm aware as I say that, yeah, a therapist would probably have a lot to say about that, but there we are. But you know, I've got lots of great options. I've got the blackcurrants, I've got the honeyberry, I think for future years. So those are my plans. Yeah, so here then are my 2 blackcurrants that I've got in the planter here. As you can see, they have got lots and lots of flowers on them, which presumably are going to become berries. If I just come in, hopefully you can see all of the lovely flowers there. And yeah, the other one over there also has quite a few on. Not quite so many, I think, but still a few. There you go. So yeah, I think these blackcurrants are going to be productive. And if I just show you very quickly then my honeyberry. So yeah, so this then is my new honeyberry, and I've deliberately chosen this variety because it's meant to pair very well with the other honeyberry that I have. It's quite important to look into that. But yeah, this is blue velvet, and yeah, it's looking really healthy and strong. And when we get a bit of wet weather, or when a space clears up, I'm not sure which will come first, but yeah, I'm going to get that into the garden. And it's obviously too late to help with pollination and berries for this year, but it's all part of my long-term strategy really to replace the blueberries. Although, yeah, when you think about it, as the blueberries were never productive, I don't know what they're replacing. But yeah, hopefully they're going to produce a lot more berries for me than the blueberries ever did. And yeah, this one here is the one that I've put in the ground earlier this year. It did flower. It is looking really healthy. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And I think it is going to do well for me, but I doubt I'm going to get any fruits this year. But yeah, it does seem to be enjoying the soil that I have. And obviously we know that the blueberries, they never would. So yeah. The other option that I was thinking of, because I do love my fruit and clearly I'm very greedy, is I'm thinking about possibly getting some, you know, thornless blackberries. Lord knows where I'm going to put them. Perhaps I could put them in these pots, I don't know. But yeah, I thought that would be a really great idea, because then in terms of like the blackberry, as in black coloured berry season, you know, the honeyberries are said to fruit very early. then I guess you'd get the blackcurrants, and then you'd get the blackberries. So you've kind of got quite a long harvest period there. And obviously berries that are black coloured tend to be very high in lots of great properties, and they're really healthy for you. But yeah, I think I've made that decision today, and I think it's the right decision to make. I don't really like to get rid of plants when they're looking so healthy and strong like this. So I think I'm going to keep it there for the remainder of the season, and then, you know, when it dies back at the end of the year, just throw it out then, because it's just a lot easier. So yeah, I'd be really interested to hear from you if you also have these kind of difficult decisions that you've had to make with your plants. If there's any plant that you've really struggled to let go of because you've really wanted to grow it and you've just come to the realization it's not worth it. Yeah, please do let me know in the comments section. As I say, I do think it's really important, especially if you have a small garden, to really look at everything in your garden and kind of assess, you know, does it look beautiful? Is it being productive? Is it worth the space? Because at the end of the day, if you've not got much space and that's at a premium, you really do need to make the most of it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this update, and I'll be back in the garden soon.